Welcome back to another episode of the podcast Room by Software Engineer. I'm your host Perry, and I have Joe Summerhayes with me today. Joe, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thanks for being on the show, actually.
No worries. You had to drag me here, but I came in the end.
Oh man, I've been meaning to, just because you have such a great story to begin with. So I guess we could definitely start with that, because why I think you're probably one of the most interesting people that I know personally is because one of the things that I hear quite often is somebody who's never done any programming or coding or whatever, and they always want to dive into it. And you're the clear-cut example of somebody who didn't have a tech background or a software engineering background, and nowadays you are writing code as a daily task at this point. So I think you're absolutely back full of knowledge in that process. And yeah, thanks again for being on the show.
No worries at all. Yeah, glad I can be of service.
Amazing. So I guess for the wider audience, I guess, can you just give us a brief description in the past couple of years or where you started, what's your background and what you're doing nowadays? And then we could definitely dive in between those two step points.
Yeah, so I've been working here, I've been working at Highspace for 4 years now almost. And I was working in the support team for the massive chunk of that time, and in the past year really decided I want to become a software engineer. And so as of in about 2 weeks I will be full-time. I've been transitioning for the last sort of 3 or 4 months. So yeah,
that's absolutely
exciting
amazing
times.
Yeah, because so I'm just going to describe, I guess, the general path for somebody who studied computer science. So I have a background in computer science. So I did that during university. And then when I graduated, I just got straight into a developer role. As opposed to when you were mentioning you're doing a lot of support and then a bit later starting to transition. It's not like a day 1 to day 2 kind of thing. It's not an overnight thing where you just end up picking up every single language out there. And I have the absolute chance to see you go through it. And I definitely want to talk about that. But let's just go back to where it all started, I guess. You're a very athletic person, because we play football Mondays as well. So did that, I guess, what did high school or university Joe look like?
High school Joe, I was very skinny, a little scrawny bugger. Just always enjoyed climbing trees and shit when I was a kid.
That's fair actually. And in terms of school wise, I do know it's different. So I'm Canadian, but here in the UK, people do have these courses called the GCSE, which are courses that you have to choose and everything. So what did you choose during that time? What was your interest?
GCSE, I was in a Rudolf Steiner school. It's a bit of a, without going into too much detail, it's a bit different to your classic sort of mainstream schools, a lot less academically focused. So I think I only took 8 GCSEs. They didn't offer loads of stuff that a lot of the comprehensive schools did, but I think the classic sort of math, science, English, and then I think probably the most quirky one was expressive arts, which was pretty much what it sounds like. Any sort of thing that can qualify as arts, you can do as your sort of exam. So I think you had to do 3 things, and one of them I did a poem.
Okay.
Had to write I wrote a weird poem or something, presented that.
It wasn't a haiku, was it? Or was
no,
it just a poem that you had
it was
to...
it was really weird. I think it was about something. I think you had topics that you could do it on, and I think I ended up doing it on something really weird, stalking or something.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
I don't know, just some I think I found some crazy material about some crazy stalker and wrote a poem about that. It sounds really weird now, but yeah.
Well, if you put it in context as well, I remember when I was in school, we kept on reading Edgar Allan Poe, and the topics in Edgar Allan Poe is not that far off from that. So,
and I think another one of those projects was me and my mate made a video of keepy uppy football skills sort of thing. So that was quite fun. And then the other one was wrote a song and played on guitar. So that was quite fun. For a GCSE exam, you got to do some fun stuff with that. But that was one of the GCSEs I took.
But also, I completely forgot that you're a musician as well. You're able to play what? How many instruments? 4?
3: guitar, drums, and piano. But I just sort of dabble in guitar and piano.
Yeah.
Drums, I always took exams in and stuff, and got quite good at that.
Okay, so the big picture now is that you're able to play loads of instruments. You're a very athletic person, and then you got all this tech coming in. But you did mention previously that I guess your high school days was slightly different than general other high schools. Why would you say that? Is it because like there's more focus on something different, or
so like I said, less academically focused. So like I don't know, when in the like early school days, you learn a lot of like skills you wouldn't normally learn. So like you do a lot of like gardening and like knitting and shit like that. Like
I think we call that Gen Ed actually, and those were probably like the funnest courses. I think I had one course in my whole high school that is like Gen Ed, and like people were craving for them at that point.
Yeah, it was good fun. I liked a bit of knitting, crocheting and stuff like that. It's all great.
That's pretty cool. And I think just the one other interesting thing that I remember you told me once that were you not allowed to play football in school or
that's
something?
True. Yeah, you if you got caught playing football, you got suspended.
They
were really strict on it as well. It's like it wasn't like just like playing a football match. It's like if you got caught like kicking a tennis ball against a wall or kicking a basketball, literally kicking it once, then you get really told off.
That could be an accident, as far as I know.
Yeah, it was mad. It was mad.
And for the people who are not who haven't lived in the UK, like football or soccer, as people would say, it is honestly like a lifestyle, if you know what I mean. Like everybody has a team.
Yeah.
And to think that, you've been put into that context, and nowadays you do play football very often as well. So
yeah.
Was there kind of like a feeling of like rebellion whenever you tried to do
sort
it?
of like I definitely remember like those of us who did like football, we'd always try and I think like you say, like rebel, and like we'd go around to the side of the school and like try and play, and the game would get like we'd get caught and then stuff like that. But my dad, who was like a massive football fan and sort of got my brother playing quite a lot, he was quite determined to like give the kids what they want, sort of thing. So like he'd organise these football training sessions like after school on a Wednesday, just up the hill from the school on like a field, and like he used to come down, sort of pick anyone up after school who used to want to play football, like whip them up to the field and do a big training session, and like it was sort of like this like legendary like thing that everyone would like look forward to.
I was literally gonna say like the man of the people. You just have like at the end of the day you see this glowing figure come out of nowhere and just pick everybody, bringing them
Johnny Boy's Wednesday football sessions.
Oh man, and you do see the people being absolutely passionate about football at the end. So and we could dive into that later because we definitely do play nowadays and we do that. But so in terms of like just growing up that bit, like that kind of lifestyle, I do guess it's quite unique at that point, and then you definitely have to do like have different unusual stuff happening in terms of your course load and everything. But what's interesting is you did go to uni after.
Yep.
And so where was that and what did you study in?
So I went to Sheffield Hallam University and studied psychology, which is a weird choice. I guess weird because I'd never studied that at A-level or anything. So I was just like sort of guess gambling that I'd like it, which I did. But yeah.
But that's a good point because I mean, from what I'm seeing it is, I do know a good handful, even like tons of people that went into psychology, even my year kind of thing. And everybody had a different thought process of choosing psychology at that point. And when you're saying like it's quite general and you could dab into it and then you could really just, I guess you really enjoyed it at the end, so you really did find...
Yeah, I think I took it because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it was like, actually, I think I initially applied, to do physiotherapy at uni and I didn't get in. And so I had to take a gap year. And then the time after, I was like, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, I'll pick something that I know can apply to like pretty much anything. Sort of like hedged my bets a bit.
Yeah.
And so I went with psychology. And and it sort of like did exactly what I thought it would, because I ended up in something that isn't directly related to psychology, but it still got me there, sort of thing.
But that's the thing, and we even talk about nowadays some of the stuff that you learned or some of the skills that you've learned during that, and like stuff that you could apply to today. You could still use that as a good reference point.
Definitely, because a lot of the stuff was like, I don't know, just understanding people, and you obviously work with people all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And the good thing is that like I definitely had this conversation before when people were saying I don't know what I want to get into, especially what you go into uni at the age of 17, 18 barely. Yeah. And being able to like know exactly what you wanted to do to begin with is very rare. That's probably why, even for me going into it, I got into physiology and math for my first year. And then like that has nothing to do with what I do today. So I ended up switching to computer science, and that's kind of how I got into the whole bit. So it's always touchy-feely, try to see how it goes. But I mean, we could talk about that in terms of like, I mean, we're going to talk about, I guess, not stereotypes, but perceptions that people have. So I have never done psychology in uni. Is it true that you guys carry like 700 books that are like 200 pounds each? And like, what was like the lifestyle kind of like?
I do remember like getting sort of like advised to get all these books in first year, and it's like, oh yeah, you should probably get this, you should probably get this. Ended up spending so much money on like loads of these massive books, and literally never used any of them. So
Was it you, or was it just like in general that you didn't really need them?
Yeah,
right?
like just didn't really need them. Like everything's like, when you're writing essays and stuff, you're citing all these articles and papers that are online. Like you don't really when you reference like one of the books, it doesn't really look that good. So unless you just want to like read around the topic loads, then that's probably no point. But yeah,
that is interesting, because like we live in a day where a lot of stuff is available online. A lot of resources are out there. So even when I went to uni, like a lot of full textbooks are available out there. Sorry for that. The other thing that's interesting, I guess, like just because I study in a different country and you study in the UK, did you guys have anything similar? I remember we had websites that told us how good our profs are. So one of them was called Rate My Prof, and
you're talking about professor?
Yeah, professors. Yeah. So when you go on it, if you knew what class you were in, you could just choose that class and it'll tell you which prof is good, kind of thing. So you guys are across the pond then. Yeah. I was. Did you guys have anything similar back then?
No, I never come across that. So like, what like?
So
is this like a thing the uni provide, or is this like someone?
Oh no, it's like a third party, somebody from randomly. They're like, I think it's probably ex-students. You know what I mean? Somebody ex-student from a university. You could pick your university. You could choose whichever class, and it'll tell you like which prof are there, and then students leave comments about the profs that are in there. So,
but that gets a bit out of hand.
It really does, but it was a help at the same time, because I remember it saved my ass, but also a couple of people's, like it covered them, just because when there's a prof that's either really, really hard, unjust, unfair, like red flag, that website is quite accurate in terms of it. And then you have the odd ones, which is quite unjust. It'll be like just because it has a personal hatred to it. But in general, I thought it was quite a common knowledge for uni kids in Canada.
Yeah.
People were sharing it. So, but yeah, so in terms of like doing psychology and everything, what was I know most programs has like a big project, I guess. Did you have anything similar in psychology, or?
Sorry, do you mean like a dissertation or something?
Yeah. So my example is that in comp sci we had to build we had a full year to build a game, and that was like our project. So I'm guessing a dissertation, like a bigger project in that.
Yeah. Third year, you get like a dissertation, but I didn't like the structure of it at all, because we weren't allowed to just do anything we wanted. It was like a list of certain amount of essay title or dissertation titles that you could choose from, and you basically apply for your first choice, second choice, and third choice. And I didn't get any of my choices, so I got given something that I just wasn't interested in at all. Right. It's like something stupid, like it's not stupid because it's quite like a big psychology thing, but I did like something on attachment theory, which is like how children are like attached, how their attachment to their parents or their mum in particular like shapes like their personality and stuff. I didn't really find it particularly interesting. I had to do like thousands of words on it.
Oh my god!
I had to run an experiment, and I didn't find like significant results or anything, which is just like that moment when you like run the analysis and then your results aren't significant, and you're like, great, I have to write like
the more we talk
20
about
pages on something that just isn't true.
It's like, oh well, I got to redo all of it.
True,
yeah. But the more we talk about this, the more I just see the similarities of stuff we do nowadays. Like we do run experiments here and there just to see like, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Obviously, it's not as big of a scale or as, I guess, different field, obviously. But I think like looking back at, what I did or what you did during uni, did you notice anything that will benefit you nowadays to being able to pick up, I guess, learning tech easier, just in general points? Or was it just not as obvious?
I don't know. Yeah, that's quite a good question.
Because like, when you were saying sometimes when you don't get to choose the topic that you want, I think the most important lesson learned from that is that the way you've gone about to like talking to the people, researching and like getting the actual information for your dissertation at the end.
Yeah.
So do you find anything similar nowadays? For example, if you don't know how to solve a tech problem nowadays, do you find that knowing how to reach out and finding the right resources helped you in that time?
I just ask you, mate.
I mean, yeah, and then I asked Paul, and then it's like a chain of asking other people at that
point. And then
point.
you tell me to Google it, and then problem solved.
So it's not that different from uni, I guess. So for all the people in uni at the moment, just Google everything and you'll be mostly fine. But that's pretty cool then. So yeah, you did graduate in psychology at that point. So I guess most of the common thing after that is a lot of us would be, what now? So what was the transition like from uni to post uni?
Right, yeah. So like, obviously, as I said, I went to uni doing psychology because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Finished it and I was like, great, still don't know what I want to do. So I came home and then I started I sort of just had to start applying for jobs, and I was like, right, I just need to like apply. I need to decide what I want to do. So then obviously I'd done this degree in psychology, so I was like, why don't I become a psychologist or something like that?
Yeah.
So I started like, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what sort of jobs I was applying for, but stuff in that sort of sector. And it was, I didn't really get anything. Everyone needed like experience, and all I had was a degree, and didn't seem like it was enough. So I don't know to be honest, I was like, I'm curious to see what would have happened if I just carried on if like I hadn't got a job at Higher Space and I just carried on doing that. Yeah.
I was gonna say actually, you know, your grade of people graduating. I know you still keep in contact with them. Do you know what kind of path they took graduating the same program? Or?
Yeah, I only know. I think I still only know one person, and she basically works for like a charity, doing like loads of like charity stuff, and that's like nothing really to do with the degree, but she always did loads of charity work at uni, so that doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of like, no, I don't actually know, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think like for my example is that the few people I know that graduated from psychology, I think a good handful of them just kept on doing a master's, like a post-grad degree of that, so that would make sense just because you started off in the academy of psychology, so that would be the obvious pathway.
True, yeah.
But then like even jumping into straight being a psychologist, I think you still need to have like another certification after that.
Oh, so it's like, yeah, actually one of my mates has just become a psychologist, and it's crazy how long the process has been.
Yeah.
It made me think like I could never have
that's the thing. So not only do you do your 3 or 4 years in uni, you still got to get more certification on it. And you can see it's quite a trend in most jobs. Like I have a friend who does auditing, so he did a degree in accounting, and then after that he still has to do loads of different tests for certification if they want to do auditor, like a CPA or something. But looking back as well, when I did computer science, I came out here and like same mindset of I don't want to do any more tests or certification after that. So I guess comp sci or software engineering was quite convenient in quotation marks because we don't really have qualifications unless you want to do all these classes online. But a lot of stuff is you pick up, you learn, you do it, and then you just progress on that. So that's one of the better things I could talk about that pathway at that point. So but yeah, so you were saying like you were going on to that, and then one bit of your family history is quite interesting actually in terms of what did your dad do and how much of that kind of rubbed off of you actually?
Oh yeah, so my dad's a bookmaker at a Greyhound stadium, like Greyhound racing, and yeah, he's always been doing like horse racing and stuff like that. So yeah, growing up I remember like, I don't know, he used to take me down and I used to like count the pound coins at his stand for him, like when he was doing big horse racing meetings and stuff like that. But yeah, so in terms of like just looking at this then from a bigger picture, it's so math heavy, like math, logical, and like, and then a bit of probability in there. So
yeah,
he's like, yeah, he always like impressed. He's always like been so good at like just quick basic like maths.
Yeah, like arithmetics, you know,
probabilities and stuff. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
Oh man, and does he still do it today?
Yeah, he still does it. It's like yeah, Greyhound racing's a lot smaller than it used to be when he was like younger, but so yeah, it's still down there at Crayford Stadium. Summerhayes Bookmakers, go check it out.
Oh, that's a great thing.
Where civility counts is what's on his board.
If anybody's around there, definitely check it out. I've seen it once, so it's absolutely sick at that point. So, I mean, did you actually end up working for him then? Or was it only just like influence off of it? Well, how did that work?
Yeah, so I think like before I went to uni, in fact, definitely before I went to uni, I was probably like 16, 17, I used to work for him, and then I did it sort of like full time when I came back from uni, and I was like applying for jobs, just living at home. So I used to work on the floor. So like it's where you just sort of stand in front of all the bookmakers, and then it's your job to alert your bookmaker when another bookmaker changes his price. And you can do it when it's like quite busy and loud. You can do it through like what's called like tic-tac. It's like basically like sign language for bookmakers.
That's so cool.
So yeah, you could be like two dogs, like tap your nose sort of thing. So that's
like
like number two, and then like it's like 5 to 1, like tap your shoulders, and then he knows that like they've changed the price of the 2 dog to 5 to 1, so then he can like respond accordingly, sort of thing. Yeah.
So was this sign language just between you and your dad and I guess everybody who you work with, or did everybody have a consensus? Like
yeah, it's like in the industry.
I guess
like everyone down there would like know what that means, sort of thing. Yeah,
that's so cool. And I'm pretty sure it's not a written down thing. Like I wouldn't be able to Google like the sign
I don't actually know, to be honest. I've never done it. But yeah.
It's actually really cool because like obviously everything I want to relate to is like technology kind of thing. Like how would technology change any of it? But you can't really, because on the spot when you have all these sign languages, you can't really have technology just coming in and like replacing all of that.
True, but there are like no, it's true. But there isn't that much. Like I do sometimes go there and I'm like, this is so like needs some tech that tech could improve things for like their processes. Like they still like right, like they have so you have a clerk who stands next to the bookmaker with like a big sort of book, and they record all the bets,
right?
So when someone comes back with their ticket number, you can pay them out and stuff like that. And like that's all still like, you know, like a lot of them still write that down and stuff like that, and it's still like, I just feel like it just
I do see what you mean.
App could come in that like,
but you're still gonna have to input numbers somehow by like either poking at a computer or doing that. So I mean, I do get it, but also like, you know, for old time's sake, just keep it up like that at that point. So I mean, that definitely does help in terms of you having an analytical mind and just being quick on your feet as well. Just because that, I mean, you must see like crazy amount of money going through it. Like maybe not to you directly, but like just in that scene sometimes, just loads of money passing through.
Yeah, there's some big bettors out there, Perry.
And that has nothing related to tech at that point. That's just the kind of lifestyle. So that was really fun. So you did it for a period and after. So I guess the story so far is like, you know, big psychology background, and then loads of different good aspects, like being able to play football, playing instruments without growing up. So how did that transition into, I guess, working at Hairspace then? Which is where I met you.
Yeah, it was quite like a weird, unplanned, happy coincidence. So like we were like on a little family, I don't know, we were away somewhere with the family, and my brother's girlfriend, who worked at Hairspace at the time, was on the phone loads, and I remember like, well, like, who do you keep calling and stuff? She's like, I'm trying to hire someone for this position. And then I remember my mum being like, yeah, Joe, you should apply for that. And I was like, nah, come on. I don't know what I'm doing.
You're just beating yourself up a little bit too much there.
But yeah, I did. And then Jess didn't want to be involved in the hiring process because she might be a bit biased. So she passed me on to someone else, and I ended up getting the job. And yeah, the rest is history.
The rest is really history, actually.
So it was a role in, I don't know, the team's changed the name so many times since I joined, but it's now called the support team. It's just the support team at Hairspace. I don't even want to go into everything.
Yeah, well, I could go into it.
Go for it.
No, it's not really just me going into it. It's more about the fact that we could just definitely see the evolution from the day you joined till, I mean, today, how you're doing such a different responsibilities, roles, and everything. So I guess for like just a big picture on how what the team, the customer support team or the community support team works, is we at Hairspace deal with a lot of venues across London. So over 6,000 now. And obviously every venue has their own needs, their own questions, and making sure that they're up to speed with how our platform works. So the community support team comes in, and if there's any issue or even improving a profile of how a venue looks, what kind of information is provided on it, the community support is there, but also they're also able to handle, I guess, inquiries in a much quicker way depending on how big or small the inquiry is. So Joe, you were very involved into that, and I think one of the great period that you had was you were an expert at any wedding venues or wedding inquiries in London. How did that come about?
You put that quite nicely in terms of like what the support team does. But yeah, like I don't know, I guess I was just like always trying to find what I wanted to do. And so like I think, at one point I was thinking about maybe becoming a venue expert, which is like Hairspace's sales team. And I sort of edged down that road a bit, maybe then realized I didn't actually really like sales that much. Then I like thought, oh, you know, there's all these weddings, we're not really doing much with them, and I tried to like make that my thing and like push weddings, which we had some good success with, and became the wedding expert through that.
Dr. Love, as they call him.
So that was sort of fun, and then I started to like sell wedding promos a little bit as well. So I like tried my strength in a few different things, and although I enjoyed it all sort of thing, nothing really, I sort of came away with it like, I don't think I want to like go down that route. So like just kept
it does make sense though, but also even just the way that with these kind of roles, you also have like kind of made your own process when you tackle like different problems, and like even looking back, these way of tackling problems is something that you still do nowadays, but just in a different context at the end of the day. So one of the cool things is that when you have an inquiry coming in, they just go through different stages. So it'll be like, they're currently viewing the venue, and then at some point they'll confirm, and then there's a whole pipeline. So in terms of our work in tech kind of thing, it's quite similar. We'll have tickets coming in, we'll spec them, and then we'll have them in progress, and then pushing through reviewing and all that. So I do see some similarities between what you're doing back then but nowadays. But I think the really big juicy bit is so from what I've seen actually is that you were definitely involved in this community sport, but then there was something that piqued your interest in becoming a software engineer, in becoming that. So
it wasn't, so like I think my first involvement in like actually like tech work wasn't when I wanted to become a software engineer. It was like I think it was like another one of these avenues that I was like exploring, and so I think we needed someone to do QA, and me and another guy were like, this sounds quite cool sort of thing. So we sort of got a bit trained up in that, and that was like probably my first like proper involvement with the tech team. And I used to do like some of the simpler sort of QA, which I don't know, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's quality assurance. So it's like when the tech guys make stuff, we need to test it in like a staged environment to see if it actually works and it doesn't break stuff. And then if it passes QA, then it's good to like be released on live. So I started to do that that was quite a slow process. And then I guess that was the first like real interest in tech.
I almost forgot that kind of impact that it would have on you, just because like when you were using the systems that we built like as a daily task when you were on the support team, obviously you'll be doing all that, but when you get to see more experiments, as we see, because when you're doing these user testing, you got to see like new features coming out before it actually got released, and then
that's fun.
Was that, I guess it was just a generally positive impact in terms of seeing how rough, how nitty gritty a lot of our stuff is, because a lot of times they'll fail it and then they'll have to come back another time. So
nothing gave me more pleasure than a good failing a ticket.
Well, justifiably at that point, because if it doesn't work for you, it's definitely not going to work for somebody out there. So I completely forgot about the user testing bit, but I'm definitely going to come back to that because that's going to be great. So so what was interesting in all of this was that it was still within the same company. So in terms of you knowing the context of what you were testing, as in like the actual user use cases, it was really easy to pick up kind of thing, if you know what I mean, because you knew how our business work and how everything. I think for most people in general, like, was it scary for you to I guess look at it the first time, being like, this is how kind of tech works? Was it your expectation of how the tech process was like?
I didn't know what to expect, but it was definitely more complicated than like I would ever have thought. Like I remember just like the simplest stuff. Like I remember like how to like set up a QA ticket and like stage something.
We could talk about that. What does staging mean? As in, just as a general thing, it just basically means
what? Just deploying the thing you want to do in like an environment that
in the fake environment, basically. Exactly. Yeah. So I think the concept itself is like, it's not like a common thing that anybody would know. So,
right. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what was interesting, I guess, from that point was that like, obviously we're not going to test new features directly on live, directly on the real product we have. We set up loads of different fake environments to test them.
Yeah.
And then that's when we could go completely as much freedom as we want at that point. So making fake customers' name, those are always fun at that point.
But in terms of like understanding like the processes and stuff, I definitely didn't at the time. And to be honest, like this is sort of like stuff I'm still getting my head around now. It's definitely not easy, but it's like fine. I think it's like, it's just important to like sometimes know that you don't have to like 100% understand exactly why things are. It's like you do to a certain extent, but you can just sort of like, okay, I just need to do that to make this do that, and then you can like come back to it later, sort of thing.
I was exactly going to say that, because I feel like at some point, like sometimes nowadays when you look back at that specific moment, be like, I've come across this before, and like now I understand how it works as opposed to back then.
And that's a beautiful moment when that happens.
Yeah, and to be fair though, for you it happens way more often than for me nowadays. So you're so lucky still in that phase.
Yeah.
But I think that's really just an encouraging thing for anybody who's always had this perception of looking at tech from the outside and just like slowly crossing that barrier and seeing like, okay, it doesn't completely make sense now, but the more you do it, the more you push into it, the more it makes sense and the more you get comfortable on that. So yeah, you definitely had a really, I mean, you still do QA here and there because we all do testing once in a while, but that's still part of the role. But you definitely have picked up a lot more responsibilities in terms of tech responsibilities nowadays. So after that moment of, I guess, doing part-time QA user testing for us, how did that transition into, I guess, what's the next step after that?
Yeah, so when I was like, okay, so my mate Ollie, started doing coding online, and I remember him telling me a bit about it, and he showed me like a few like websites he was like designing and stuff, and I was like, oh, this looks quite cool. He was basically saying, I'm doing these courses and I'm going to like apply for these jobs as like a developer and software engineer and stuff, and hopefully that I get that sort of thing. And I was really like, oh, that's so cool and stuff. But in my head, I think I was like, oh, it sounds like I don't know if that's going to work. And I just sort of like, I've always just put like coding on like this pedestal, and it's like the sort of thing that you can only do if you like really clever, or you've like you've gone to uni and studied it, or you've been doing it since you're like a kid. And I just didn't think it was like an attainable target. And then like a year later, he gets this job as a developer, and it was like, wow, okay, that's possible. He's literally studied that at home, working full time, just doing it like at home, and he's got a job. And I was like, okay, shit, that's actually a thing. Then I started and I remember I looked into it very briefly and like found some like stuff, and I remember had this great moment at a mate's birthday party when I was just staring into the bonfire, and I was just like, you know what, I think I want to become a coder. And then I remember mentioning it to my girlfriend Lauren, and she was like, yeah, you should definitely just start doing some courses. And then the next day I just started doing it, and just and I think I knew I'd like it even before I started it. And yeah, I did. I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of stuff you just said is one of the important bit is obviously the positive influence to begin with. That definitely had a really good impact, whether it's from your girlfriend or from your mate Ollie as well. Just to point out that Ollie did not have a technical background either in terms of school
No, he didn't. But he's always been a lot more tech savvy than me. He's always been more into computers and just general tech stuff. Yeah,
latest computer,
latest iPhones, stuff like that.
That's actually quite a shared feeling when you're talking about that in terms of oh, can I do it? When you're saying when it's on a pedestal and looking from the outside. And I definitely can say a handful of people that I talk to, they will have the exact same sentiment. And which is why from you being here and then you just being able to share the process of going from there to being able to do it full time is what I find the most fascinating to begin with. So
even just downstairs before when I was getting a cup of coffee, Beth was asking someone who works at HiSpace with us. Beth was asking, oh yeah, how's the tech stuff going? And then she just went on to say sometimes I walk past you guys and I just see your screen. It just freaks me out. And it's do you know, that's literally it, isn't it? It's when you see code for the first time, it's terrifying.
Freaks me out as well. I see it every day and it just freaks me out all the time. Yeah, but it's just that it's just an impression, especially when I ask you the impression of this is my impression of psychology students. It's kind of the same thing the other way around. This is my impression of software stuff. So we're breaking it all down right now. We're all going into the nitty gritty. So that's the fun bit. So dude, that influence of having you've seen somebody else do it. So when you're saying after a year, Ollie got into a job and then doing all that. So how did you start? I guess that looking into the bonfire moment, that kind of happened. And then so that is the thought. Now, in terms of putting the thought into motion and action, I guess that's the hardest part, going from 0 to 1. How did that go? And I'm pretty sure a lot of people will.
No, I think that was fine. Because I was just I had sort of this template of if I roughly do what this guy did, because I know Ollie and he's a really clever guy, but I know that I can do that sort of stuff that he can do. We studied maths together and stuff. I knew I was
logical thinking was there.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew that if I put as much work in as he did, I could get a job. It's like, it was just quite simple. And so I was like, right, mate, like, what shall I do? Where did you start? And just asked him this sort of stuff. And he was like, he recommended like Code Academy. And he was like, yeah, there's loads of free content on there. Start with HTML. And so I started like just learning a really basic HTML course.
That's so good. Because I mean, like, even people, sometimes if you can't ask anybody and you just try to figure out where do you want to start, a lot of them will have like guides online kind of thing. But guides online kind of rely on you. So for example, W3 School is a very resourceful. Some people hate me quoting it, but you know, I'm still gonna do it till I die.
You love it.
Yeah. So for example, I'll bring up W3 School is that it is a guide online that teaches you HTML, but even more than that, any kind of thing. But the difference between W3 School and Code Academy that you just mentioned is that Code Academy has a lot more structure. And I guess you could tell me more about like what the structure looks like. So it'll give you some information, it'll give you some definition. But what do they do with it? Do they give you like exercises? Do they give you like quizzes?
Yeah, I don't know exactly the best way to describe it, but you might be able to elaborate. But they give you like, give you a little lesson and they teach you something, and then they have like in-page like code editor where you can like and they like, I don't know how they check everything, but you produce your answer, and then if it's right, it like gives you a tick, and you go, and it lets you go to the next page, which was like perfect for like this sort of thing. So like, but it did get a bit buggy sometimes, and it's like, I've done the right answer and I can't get to the next question. So there's like a few like weird, annoying edge cases, but it was definitely like the perfect place to start, I think.
That's great. So like,
especially go ahead, because like when you're literally starting off as like a complete novice, you don't even know like what a code editor is, or like I don't know what I need. I don't know like what tools I need and stuff like this. And so like when it's just like all in the web page, it's like so much easier. You can just like chill out and just, you know, okay, you're just learning purely what things mean before you need to know, like make choices about what you use and stuff like that.
Exactly. Did they do Hello World?
Yeah, Hello World. It's just classic stuff like that.
I'm so glad you know what it is. Like if I asked you this like years ago, you'd be like, what?
Yeah,
like, what's going on?
Hello what?
Yeah, hello what? That is 100% true, because I think for most people just even listening to this right now, like your computer right now, if you open any kind of editor, or even if open like your command terminal, you could write code in there and it will work, just because your computer, that's what it does at the end of the day. But when you're when you were seeing those examples on a platform, so Code Academy, is it online? So everything was on a web browser and everything. That's one great thing. Everybody has access to a browser nowadays. And you just go on it, and then you'll have very simple example. Coming from somebody who just doesn't know any tech at all, from what I'm hearing is that like, because I didn't do Code Academy personally, so I didn't know exactly how easy is it to pick up. But you were saying that it was so responsive that when you finish one problem, it'll tell you exactly on the spot if you're correct or not, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How long did you do that for? I think what's interesting for people is like, how much time did you commit into it, and how long did the whole thing? So I tried to do some progress on it most days when I started. So I don't know, maybe like spent like a couple of weeks doing, like maybe not that, even that to be honest, maybe like a week doing HTML, and then a few days doing CSS. Just like, I think maybe someone would give me the advice to like, it's quite easy, and don't like spend like hours and hours learning every single definition of every element in HTML, because it's just pointless. Like you'll just learn as you go. Just understand what it is, the concept, the concept, the basic sort of structure of a web page, and then move on to like JavaScript. That's I guess a good picture, because I do know a lot of people who I guess have a full-time job as well, and when they want to get into it, either you have to do it, I guess, at the end of the day, which is so hard because you know you have a full day of job, or you do it before you go to work, which means that you got to wake up early to do that, or you do it on the weekend at that point. Did you have a preference in terms of when you want to do it?
I think I've only ever got up and coded like first thing in the morning, or like set an alarm to do it, or whatever, like 3 times.
3 times.
But those times it's happened, it's been a natural thing, and it's been great. But in general, I'm not really a morning person. And
right.
I'm not always the most motivated first thing. But yeah.
But you did find the time after work to do it. On the weekends.
Always made sure there was time, and I started like sort of a bit later down the line, when I really wanted to kick on, I started a coding challenge with myself. I don't know.
We could definitely talk about that. So this is a coding challenge that is not from Code Academy, from not any other platform. It's something that you've told yourself you're gonna do.
Yeah.
So what was it? Yeah.
So it was, I think I read it online somewhere. Some guy did it, and he said like it was really helpful in like progression. And this is like, I've probably been coding for like 3 or 4 months. So I'd like finished like just basic HTML, CSS stuff, and I'd switched to Udemy for like course content stuff, which was like, it wasn't all free. It's like, I think it's like £12. Like they do massive discounts. So it was like £12 for like loads of content, and I started learning JavaScript there, and that was really good. But yeah, after like 3 months, I was like, I really want to like kick on. Like I'm enjoying this, but I'm just not finding enough time to do it. It's like, like just the odd like half an hour here or the hour at a weekend just wasn't enough anymore. I was like, right, I want to do this. Like,
the hunger was there, man.
Yeah, the hunger was there. So I read it online, and it's basically really simple. You just like have to do an hour's coding every day for 100 days, and then sort of write a blog like to show you what you've done. You obviously didn't have to write the blog, but it's just like, it's nice to like keep counting the days and see what you've done and stuff like that. And yeah, that was hands down like the turning point. Well, not the turning point, but like the accelerator. That's when shit got real.
Yeah, because I mean, like, one thing they did mention actually was that before doing the Udemy, everything was completely free up to that point. Signing up to Code Academy and just having all the resources, there was no actual monetary barrier for you to do any of that. You could just pick it up, get the resource.
And like even the stuff I was learning on Udemy, it is all out there free if you want to go down that route. It's just a lot like less structured and a bit more like hard to like figure out what's going on. But basically, I switched to Udemy because it's like I watched like a couple of videos, and I liked the layout, and I was sort of at the point with Code Academy where I was like, I want like to have my own like I want like somewhere to write code. I don't want to just do it in a browser anymore, but I didn't know where to start with that sort of thing. So you get this. I got this Udemy course, and you sort of watch videos of your instructor who you see his screen, and he basically like tells you stuff, and then like you sort of follow his code and stuff like that. But it's just like really all handed to you nice and simply, like, right, so we need a code editor for you. So you can, I think I started with Atom, and it's like, just just download this, and then he shows you how to like set up basic sort of file structures and all the like really simple stuff. Well, simple, but like actually like weirdly hard to like get your hands on by like just Googling, like, because it's so like just routine.
Yeah, it's concepts that you're trying to explain to yourself, and then
So that was really good.
So that's actually really, really cool things, because in parallel, when all of that was happening, you were still working at Hairspace, full-time doing your thing, but you were also asking questions to me and Paul when you did have the time. And so me and Paul were both engineers at Hairspace, and we've been doing it for a couple of years now. So when you're asking those kind of really pertinent and relevant questions, not only do you have like good questions, but you also have like an extra resource in terms of what kind of answer you're looking for at that time. So I guess from my point of view during that time, that just made it interesting even more for me, but also for you, just because like it's so much more relatable. Like as you do more things, it's so much more relatable to like a real life day-to-day task that you're doing at that point. What I did want to mention actually was that so when you got referred to go into HTML kind of thing, so HTML is basically, a lot of it is straight up web development at that point. Was there any context for you with all the kind of different other facets of software engineering? So there's mobile dev, there's socket apps and all that. Did you ever think about the consideration, or did you just go down the path just because it was really a good example that you got, and then like
that's a good question. So Ollie he'd studied like he'd basically gone down the path of front end development, front end web development, and so like naturally, off sort of like I say, following his blueprint, I sort of automatically went down that similar path. But then it came to a point where I did realize, there's like back end development and like all this sort of stuff, and it's like. And then I sort of read into it. I remember reading into it a little bit, and it's like it just seemed logical that it's it's easier to start learning the front end stuff because you can visually see things, and if you're like a bit new to it all, it's very helpful that you can make something and then it appears, you can see it in front of you. But like the back end stuff, some of it isn't as complicated. It is more complicated in my opinion, but it's not all that complicated. But you can't always see what's happening. So
exactly.
It sort of requires more deep understanding of the whole sort of topic.
It does make sense, because you gotta have more, I guess, confirmation in terms of, other than being visually looks pretty kind of thing. You need some other sort of confirmation that your code works. Well, for us, we write tests, so tests is very important when you write code. That's probably one of the things that we could always emphasize on. So, but yeah, I guess like from just another perspective, and anybody who wants to start coding as well, it doesn't always have to go straight into HTML, for example. If somebody wants to start, I guess, making their own mobile apps on their phone and being, I want to make I guess, the next big thing, that's that pathway, the process of having access to these free resources like Code Academy, W3 School, it's still the same kind of process. So you could go out there at any moment, go online and learn how to make a mobile app on your own. Or if you want to make your own Skype app on your computer, you can still do that. So it is interesting that from your experience, you got really attracted to this, and then it kind of grew, and then there's nothing telling me that you're not gonna get into mobile app at some point.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
It's just transferable skills at that then.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
One of the things that I did notice when you were going through all these different courses and even just starting working more and more on the projects that we have at Higherspace is that you started off with a lot of examples, I guess. So when you started doing Code Academy, it was like one-time examples, and then correct, that's a good answer. That's the right value of the variable that you did that. At what point did you slowly transition into, like, I guess, working on your own little projects rather than just a simple case? Because I definitely do feel like the sentiment is that making a project, like a bigger project, is much more interesting than working on a single example.
Yeah, I tried to do that as early as possible because alongside this, I was trying to read more about like other people who are like trying to do the same thing, and also like listening to like some other coding podcasts and stuff where a lot of them like get like newbies on or like advice for people who are starting out. And one of the things that kept cropping up was don't get bogged down with just doing course, like, because you will just like end up following the same sort of things, but like you need to like be able to think for yourself a bit and encounter problems and fix problems. And so like I remember, I definitely like tried to like do my own little stuff early as possible. I remember like making, I think it was called Summerhayes Scouting or something. It was like just like a basic sort of like web page, and it had like loads of like young Liverpool players on. It's like just look. Just like,
why Liverpool?
A big Liverpool fan, me. But yeah, so then I think I ended up making like a live league table or something like that. And that was probably the first time I did it.
And the really good point that when you started doing that is that you realize not only is there code to display, I guess, pictures and pretty text onto it, but there's also code to make sure that you could, have the actual code hosted somewhere on the website. Yeah. That's kind of phase where there's like, you start exploring different facets of how a website is available to people.
And every day it just seems like, every day it just seems like, there's so much more to learn. Do you know what I mean? It's like you learn one thing and you realize you need to learn 3 more things. It's just like,
but it's good that like it's kind of like a puzzle at that point. You fit some pieces together, and then you're like, but why am I able to see it on my computer, but you're not able to see it on your computer, for example? Yeah. So then it's like, that's another problem to solve. And then that's how you slowly build these pieces together. And then next thing you know, you've done at least a good handful of projects nowadays.
I've done quite a lot,
and you're still working on a couple.
Do you know the best thing though? The best thing about doing the personal projects is you have to deal with like the pain for the first time. Because when you're like following the course stuff, when you're following the course stuff, it's you don't run into problems, because the problems you run into, your instructor runs into, obviously usually on purpose, and then obviously he knows how to get out of it, so you don't have the stress and the pain of when it goes really wrong. So when you're doing your stuff for the first time and you break something or you get to a problem you just can't figure out, like you have to like just deal with how frustrating that is. And like, I remember like I'm so much better at dealing with it now, but like first time I came, like I thought I'd broke my web page and I'd spent ages doing it and I couldn't figure it out. I remember just walking to the park and I was just like sitting on this bench, like what is going on? And then like came into work the next day and like talked to you or Paul about it, and then you were like, yeah, dude, just chill out. Like,
and in my head was like, nobody did this to you, like
Yeah.
you did this to yourself, which is so funny because like it's definitely I've had it. I've had these moments. Like a lot of engineers have had these moments, and then it's like, not only do you get better at coding stuff, but you also get better at fixing the stuff you broke. So like that's a lot of the major component of, I guess, a daily software engineering life is fixing up your own mess at that point.
And that does seem to be the place where you learn the most as well.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like you take one step back, but you're definitely taking like 5 steps forward at that point, just because what are the odds of you doing the same mistake again? And you also get to be exposed with different kind of error messages. You definitely spend less time dealing with the same problem like in the future. So that is definitely super important for not just people beginning going into software engineer, but even just software engineers nowadays anyway. So one thing I do want to touch on actually, which is quite interesting, is you did work with different technologies so far. And by technologies, not only is there languages, but there's also tools and frameworks that you got to use. So just tell us like at the beginning. So when you mentioned HTML, from that point, what was the rest like? How did that go? What framework you ended up using, or what was in between kind of those?
So I did HTML, CSS, really basic. And then I took a big course on vanilla JavaScript. So just like no frameworks, JavaScript as it is. And they really started from the roots. So like basically using like, is it ES5?
ES5 is the thing, ES5.
Is that the old, like, where it's
ES5 is
bar
older,
instead of const? So it started with like ES5. The guy, basically the instructor was like, I know that this, like, there is new syntax for this, but I'm going to teach you the old way because you will come across it in all these repos and wherever you work. So it's good to just know what it is. So they covered all of that, and then stuff that there's quicker ways of doing it. So for instance, like looping through an array, it was all about like the for loop rather than like the JavaScript functions like
map or for
and
each
stuff like that.
So
it was like really starting from the basics of JavaScript, and so because of that, it was like quite a long course. So I spent quite a long time on that, but I'm glad I did because I feel like I've really covered all the basics of it. I've got a good understanding of that now. And then I think, so when I finished that like JavaScript course, I'd read a bit about frameworks, and so I was like, okay, let's start on like a nice easy one, which is like jQuery.
And I remember
it cropped up at work a few times, and it seemed quite relevant and quite a nice entry level one.
I do remember talking to you, what is a framework to begin with, and that was always like a conceptual like thing to understand. But at the end of the day, it's just more tools for you to use, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel, basically. And jQuery was definitely a prominent one that you definitely see all across the web. So you came across that.
Yes, came across that, and I did like a small course on that, which I think is all you need for jQuery. It's not worth just get the basics down.
Years of jQuery experience. Like, please don't, guys. Don't spend years on jQuery.
Smash that in like a week, and then I was like, I want to learn like a proper big framework. So I was like reading around a bit, and it was like the two like sort of leading ones were React, and the two ones that appealed to me best front end JavaScript frameworks was React and Vue. And React just seemed to have more
traction, community, resources.
Exactly. And I'd spoke to a couple of like people, and they were like, React's really big, like it's a good one to get, and just like dived in, and that was like probably a year ago to like now when I started learning that, and I've done like 3 or 4 courses, and I'm still doing another one now, like just keep like getting slightly more advanced ones, and just keep alongside like other projects, keep trying to like just get better and better at React, and because it's always good to keep learning, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess from when you were mentioning like you were reading a bit here and there kind of thing, is it just general Googling out there, or was there a specific web page that you like?
I couldn't give you a specific web page, I don't know. But just like general Googling, like just like seeing what people think and stuff like that.
Using the keywords like, what's the most modern frameworks that you can use and everything. So that's always interesting at that point. So
probably spoke to you and Paul about it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really cool thing, because like from our point of view, like as I was saying, like just seeing somebody diving so deep into it and really just having traction and being able I guess with your logical analytical mind from all the previous experience you had, that was our point of view. And I think like what people, what people should know is that now you're working full time as a software engineer at Higherspace, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Cool.
And the good thing is not only just front end, as you were talking about. We really tackle all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Whether it be doing database stuff, which you didn't actually learn too much in your course itself, but it's something that you are definitely picking up whenever we do come across it. So I guess like, what is your point of view? So when you came into it, like we've seen so much of what you were doing and everything, but I don't think the other way around, you were seeing too much of what we were doing to begin with. So I guess from somebody in your position that like, more fresh coming in, what was your perception of just looking at us going at it?
So like, I don't know, I always knew that like what you guys are doing was like hard, but I didn't realize like how much credit you deserved for like all this like this stuff. So it's like seeing from the other side now, it's like when you put so much time into something and you like sort of release it, and then people are just like, oh, that's cool, and it's like, damn, like 3 weeks on that, like so yeah, like it, like to all those people out there, it's fucking hard.
I mean,
no, but yeah, respect to the devs.
No, we do have moments where we just take one line of code and then it has like a massive impact, and it's like, yeah, we should have done this.
That's true, actually. You do sort of bask in the glory of those points. So, yeah. I guess what comes around goes around, comes around.
That's good, because I mean, like, it's so hard to find somebody to have, slowly made the transition, like, looking it from the outside and looking it from the inside, how it learns kind of thing. I guess just advices for people trying to help you. So whether it be me or somebody or Paul or somebody in the future kind of thing, what like faux pas we did, or what really good things that we did to begin with?
Definitely, like you guys have always been like really like supportive in terms of like, if I don't understand something, it's like, all right, cool. That you both seem to like enjoy teaching and enjoy like imparting your wisdom onto other people. So it's like, if I'd come in, it's like, I really don't understand this. It wouldn't just like, you wouldn't never like just fob me off with like, oh, just read this link or
have you ever heard the term RTFM?
No.
It's a tech term which stands for read the fucking manual.
Okay, right. Yeah. Well, thankfully, you guys were a bit beyond that. So, but you'd always like sit down and really explain stuff through to me, and so yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and was it easy for you to, I guess, understand it the first time? And was it easy for you to admit that you don't know it, but then like just come back and like do that?
Yeah, like I think I'm quite good. I've been quite good at just like accepting that like, God, one of the hardest things I reckon for loads of people who do something like this is like going from a position where you know what you're doing to a position that it's like you're literally like, sometimes you feel really stupid, and you just have to accept that like, like you're not stupid. This is really hard, and you're just gonna have to, like you're not just don't feel stupid, because there are times when it's like someone's explaining something to you and it's like, I don't get it, and you just like, you're like, am I cut out for this? Am I like too stupid for this? But it's like, no, it's
That's, I could repeat exactly what you said, as in like, I'm years deep into the game, not that many years deep into the game, but I still have those moments where it's like, but why doesn't this make sense? Why? But that's always one of the good things. So, I mean, yeah, I think we've definitely covered a lot of stuff today, but I think for the people who want to take your path, not exactly in web dev, but just in general, of making the dive, and just not having any background experience, what is, I guess, your general advice for them?
It's like specifically coding.
Yes, coding. As in somebody who doesn't have any background in engineering, and then they're like, I want to make something, or I just want to see how to make a website to begin with.
Cool. Like, it's definitely possible, even if you think you're not smart, or anything like that. It's not rocket science. It's like, all it's going to take is like hard work and like quite a lot of like self-belief and motivation. So you can definitely do it. Two, if you feel yourself like slacking at all or not making enough progress, do something like this, like 100-day challenge or something like that. Just like really like get behind it, like try and like get up and do it every day. Make sure you just crack on with that. And honestly, it's just like, just accelerates how much you learn. And it's just like 2 months will pass or whatever, and you'll just be like, I'm so wise. And you'll look back at like blog posts you wrote like a couple of months ago, and it's just crazy how far you've come. So
keeping track of your progress is definitely important.
Also, another thing, is don't like as much as it's good to like work hard and stuff, like it still needs to be fun. So if you're like stressing about it and it's just like getting all too much, just chill out, have a break, have a Kit Kat, and have a cup of tea.
Yeah, I'm gonna have one right after this. I'm kidding, but yeah, honestly, appreciate everything you've said today and everything. Can anybody follow you on any kind of, I guess, social media posts, anything?
I'm not a big fan of social media these days, Pez, so no.
That's all good. I mean, if people need to find you, they'll find you at that point.
They can find my GitHub somewhere.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you guys, I'll link it somewhere down below. So honestly, Joe, thank you so much for being on the show.
No worries, mate. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, and
Thanks
hopefully even more people, will consider doing that step. So cheers, man.
Cheers.